What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds and another Royal Rebounds podcast live with Calvin and Barry. This is the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button down below. And if you'd love to join the Royal family with Calvin and I, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. We are here at Punch Bowl Social Live. As you can see, Golden One Arena is just behind us here. We are breaking down this breaking trade, Calvin, and then we will also be live post-game here as well. So, Calvin, welcome. First thoughts on the trade.
Man, I'm still kind of unpacking all of this. Like, I don't think anybody is really going to be 100% committed in one way or another here for probably a few weeks. You know, we'll have to see Sabonis play, obviously, with the Kings. But this is what everybody wanted, right? They wanted a deal to happen. I'm not saying everyone wanted Tyrese traded, because I think most people did not. But bottom line is the Kings needed to make a move and get more talent on their roster, and they got an all-star player in return here. So there's good and bad. I think everybody is still kind of processing this whole situation. Obviously, emotions and everybody loves Tyrese, so that is going to play a big role in how you feel about this trade regardless. But just looking at it from an X's and O's or from a building a roster standpoint, it's hard to argue that the Kings didn't make a good move here.
Yeah, a lot of mixed emotions. I know as soon as you mentioned to me, because you know I was setting up here and you came up and you're like, they traded Tyrese. I was like, really? A lot of emotions going. I'm feeling a little bit better now, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I want to give a couple shout outs. First off, Mike Monticello here in the chat. Mike brought us a monitor this morning, so we are able to use it. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate you. As you can see here, we didn't bring the entire studio with us, but
we came pretty close.
We brought a ton of stuff. Also want to give a shout out to Vinny, producer Vinny. He is the man.
Yes.
And
a shout out to Punch Bowl Social for giving us the space. Yes. They've been awesome. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, and as Dennis mentions here, did we plan this, Calvin? Did we know a trade was going down today? Because we came to Sacramento for a reason.
It's funny that you say that because we did not plan this. However, we decided out of nowhere to show up for the last back-to-back home games of the year for Sacramento. It's one of our really good friends' birthdays who's going to be here tonight. We're going to the games. We also just went over 1,000 subscribers yesterday.
Yep.
And the trade happens all in one. So things are in motion here. We can't stop them anymore.
Real things are happening for the Sacramento Kings and for Royal Rebounds. All right, so the reason you guys are all here is we want to talk about this trade. So breaking news, about 3 hours ago now, the Indiana Pacers trade all-star center, two-time all-star center, Domantas Sabonis to the Sacramento Kings for Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. The Kings are also receiving guard Jeremy Lamb, forward Justin Holiday, and a 2027 second-round pick. That's a lot coming back to Sacramento in this deal.
It's a lot being given up also.
It is. I know many Kings fans, you know, me included, and I know you were included in this, that just wanted Buddy Hield out of town. He needed to get out of here. He's ready to move on. His attitude that he's had towards this team has been contagious and not in a good way. We saw Tristan Thompson. He hasn't played in like weeks now.
Yeah.
I kind of knew as soon as they traded for him in the first place, having that large salary, expiring deal, that he probably wasn't going to be with the team through the rest of the season unless they went on some miraculous run, made the playoffs. But the guy for me that I'm really disappointed to see in this deal is Tyrese Haliburton.
Yeah, you're not alone.
And, I mean, it's really tough. When you're a Kings fan and you've been watching basketball as long as we have, it's hard to have your favorite player or one of your favorite players on your team, right? Because they're not a good team. I let my guard down. I kind of feel like I'm in like another relationship here. Like I let my guard down. I finally was like, okay, I'm going to start liking a Kings player. I like everything about Tyrese Haliburton. And then he goes on and he gets traded which is crazy. I think a lot of Kings fans agree that he had a high upside. He was an awesome draft pick and a player for Sacramento. However, we talk about all-stars. The Kings have not had an all-star since DeMarcus Cousins. And I want to touch on that subject a little bit later because Calvin and I had an interesting Uber ride this morning with a bartender, an ex-Kings bartender that had a lot of interactions with DeMarcus. But it brings an all-star to Sacramento, not just a one-time, but a two-time all-star to Sacramento, and gives
probably could have made a case for him to make the all-star team this year also.
And gives De'Aaron Fox some more talent to build around. Yes, you give up Tyrese Haliburton, but you pretty much don't give up anything else in this deal. You hold on to your own first-round picks. Maybe another trade is coming. I'm not sure, but I just want to hear your thoughts again, Cal.
Well, nobody is going to be okay with or happy with Tyrese being traded. That's, I think, the easiest thing to say about all of this. But at the end of the day, the Kings really kind of backed themselves into a little bit of a corner here. And it was a very slow and long, ongoing back into that corner, right? It took years for them to do this. But they were in this situation where they had to make a move. And a lot of people will argue you don't make a move just to make a move, but this team needed the group of players that they had was not working. So whether you're making a move just to make a move or it's for the future, you had to break this group of players up. The problem that the Kings had is the players they really wanted to trade, one of them they did make in this deal, but just those guys alone were not enough to get something that they wanted in return.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to give Sabonis or Ben Simmons or any of these other high-profile players for just Buddy and Marvin Bagley. So that being said, the Kings pretty much had to include either Tyrese or De'Aaron Fox in one of these meaningful deals that's going to get you an all-star level player in return. So then you're left going, well, who do we trade, Fox or Haliburton? Haliburton's value might be a little bit higher right now. Fox could have given you a really good player in return. It's just a really difficult decision to answer. But again, just going off of the players they have and where they're going to fit on this team, they needed a starting power forward. They needed all-star level talent. They got both of those in this one trade. The question is, what do you do from here? You mentioned another deal happening. I think the Kings still have 3 or 4 moves they need to make because now you look at their front court.
Yeah, that was going to be my
Sabonis
next question.
And Holmes next to each other. And Bagley also. I mean, they're not going to play all 3 of those guys at the same time, but I don't really like playing Sabonis alongside Holmes. I think they're very similar styles of players. Neither one of them is a real floor spacer or a stretch perimeter shooter. So you're kind of in a difficult situation there. I don't know whether the Kings are going to look to move Rashawn Holmes after this, but that's probably something you need to look at. Harrison Barnes is another guy that the Kings, I think, have to decide what they're going to do with here going forward. Their bench is now a little bit messed up. Terrence Davis is already out for the year. You just traded Buddy Hield. Who's going to be your starting shooting guard now? We know De'Aaron Fox is coming back into that starting lineup. Are you going to start Davion Mitchell alongside him, or do you choose to start Justin Holiday and keep Davion Mitchell coming off the bench? So there's still a lot of questions to answer, but I think at bare minimum, the Kings succeeded in making a deal for a valuable player that helps improve the talent of this roster and fills an area of need in the short term. Long term, they have a lot more questions to answer. But they had those questions to answer whether or not this deal happened anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's most Kings fans, if not all, wanted something to happen, right? We all agreed that something needed to happen, something needed to trade or to change, a trade needed to happen. We saw the CJ McCollum trade this morning to the Pelicans. Maybe that was the domino that finally set it off. I'm not sure. But yes, I think the Kings are going to make another deal. We have Bagley. He's still on the roster. He's a guy that maybe doesn't want to be here. You talk about the fit between Holmes and Sabonis and what that means for this Kings roster. But, hey, we still have 2 more days to go until the trade deadline.
That's true.
So many more things could happen. But for me, honestly, the thing I'm most disappointed about with this deal, Calvin, the Kings are probably going to lose tonight because Tyrese is not going to be available, and then I'm going to have to cover the bar tab because we made a bet that if they...
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
However, if they lose tomorrow
we need to
as well...
start keeping track of these because I think you've lost every bet to me this season.
Calvin's talking smack again. That's not true. That is totally not true. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about financials here. So the Kings acquired Jeremy Lamb in this deal, which I think is hilarious if you think about it from this perspective. Monty McNair was the assistant general manager of the Houston Rockets. They drafted Jeremy Lamb in 2012. He was the 12th pick in the first round, and then he trades him for James Harden.
Yep.
Do we see any similarities here between a guy that he drafted in Sacramento with the 12th pick and Tyrese Haliburton, who was shipped out for a guy as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're reaching a little bit there, but sure, there are some similarities to those situations.
So on the subject of financials, he's 29 years old.
Yep.
He's got $10 million left on this year's contract, and then he's an unrestricted free agent next year. So that's
who's 29 years old?
Jeremy Lamb.
Oh, Jeremy Lamb, yes. Yeah.
So the Kings are definitely cutting some salary here. Another player that was acquired was Justin Holiday.
Yep.
Yes, he does have a few brothers in the league. He's making $6 million this season, and he makes $6.3 next season, and then he is an unrestricted free agent as well. So yes, the Kings did part with guys like Buddy Hield, Tyrese Haliburton, but they were able to grab an all-star on a very decent contract. Sabonis is making like $18 million. He's locked up for a couple more years. And then the other guys in this deal were basically just throw-ins to make salary match. Guys that might finish the season with Sacramento, probably won't be with the team next year. But are there any of these guys or the others that you're excited about to see in a Kings jersey?
I mean, no, I don't think that Justin Holiday or Jeremy Lamb are really in the Kings' long-term plans. I feel like this is just what it needed or what it required to get this deal done at the end of the day. And I'm agreeing with everybody in the chat here. It's hard to see a guy like Tyrese Haliburton go, but at the same time, as time goes on, I feel like a lot of Kings fans will fall in love with Sabonis. He's going to bring a lot of things to this team that the Kings have been needing for years now, not just this season, multiple years. We're all sad. Of course we're sad to see Tyrese go. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier, in that the Kings were kind of forced into this position. They had to make some sort of meaningful move, not for this season, but to set themselves up for long-term success, to also appease the fan base a little bit. Kings fans were dying for some trade to happen. Yeah. They wanted Sabonis. A lot of people did. Or Miles Turner. Or Ben Simmons. Or one of these bigger-name players. Now they finally got one of those guys. It just sucks that you had to give up one of your really, really strong pieces in order to get him. But again, the Kings were forced into that position. Buddy Hield didn't have high trade value. Marvin Bagley, they tried to get rid of for a long time. Doesn't have high trade value. Harrison Barnes was probably the next closest person in terms of trade value to Fox and Haliburton. But what were you really going to get for him, in a package as well? You probably weren't going to get one of these guys. So it's not a move that's like very PC friendly, or everyone is, it's not all roses and butterflies. But it's a business. It's something that the Kings needed to do. They still were able to keep one of their focal points in Fox or Haliburton. Whether you agree that they gave up the right or wrong one, that's another debate for another day. Bottom line is, we wanted a deal to happen, and now we finally have a deal to talk about, and a meaningful deal at that. And with some of these other deals that have happened, the Pelicans have now gotten a little bit better. So the Kings might have actually improved their roster, and kept their same chances at a high draft pick at the same time inadvertently.
And they have a potential to have 2 All-Stars on this roster next season, in Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. They were able to get rid of Buddy Hield's contract without sending a first-round pick away, without giving up any real value. I see you guys in the chat here. Yes, I am sad that Tyrese Haliburton was traded. As soon as I heard the news, I was devastated. It was really, really rough. But as I start to think this through a little bit more, and I try and remove my emotions, and I just look at the basketball factor of this trade, this improves this Kings team. It figures out what's going on with the point guard position. We chose Fox. He's our guy. We were able to acquire another All-Star. We were able to get rid of Buddy Hield, which we all wanted.
Yep.
We retained our first-round pick, and we didn't handicap this team at all in the future. At all. And I know I said it already, but Sabonis is on a very team-friendly deal, which is great for the Kings. It really is. It's just going to be what happens next. We talked about it, and Calvin was just like, what's next? This is a good start.
Right. This is just the beginning.
But it's not the finish. So, as we have 2 days left, Calvin, what would you be looking for as far as how to complement this trade with another deal?
Well, I think I'm looking at two areas primarily. One, it's what are the Kings doing with Richaun Holmes? Is this part of the long-term plan? Sabonis and him playing together, I assume that those 2 guys are going to be the starters. Maybe you decide to start Marvin Bagley and bring Holmes off the bench, but that doesn't really make sense given the fact that you just re-signed Richaun on not a pretty friendly contract, but it's still, as Sacramento Kings players go, a pretty meaningful contract. So you would expect him to be the starter somewhere. And then the other thing I'm looking at is adding 3-and-D wing depth.
Yep, they lost a lot of shooting.
They lost pretty much all the shooting on this team. Tyrese and Buddy, even though we all have been piling on Buddy this year and for many years before that about his performances and how streaky he is, he still was one of the top 2 or 3 shooters on this team. So now your 2 best shooters are gone. You're already really thin at wing depth.
Yep.
You're really small now at the shooting guard position. Terrence Davis is out. He's small anyway. You got Davion. Justin Holiday is a smaller guard as well. So your backcourt is really, really small. You don't have a lot of wing depth. You have 0 shooting, and you need more defense. So, again, there's still a lot that needs to be done with this team.
Luke Walton could have got his wish.
First step here.
Harrison Barnes could be shooting 10 threes a game now.
And that's the thing, is there's no guarantee Harrison Barnes is going to be on this team through the trade deadline either.
Yep. Yeah, it's good to hear from you guys all in the chat. Hopefully you will be joining us tonight. We will all be at the game, and then we'll be back here at Punch Bowl Social. We also got to give a shout out to Jessica at Punch Bowl Social for making this happen. Thank you so much, Jessica. We're here, we're drinking beers, we're having fun, and we encourage you all to come join us after the game. All right, so next subject, De'Aaron Fox. He practiced yesterday.
His ankle feels better, apparently.
He could suit up tonight, Calvin. When we talked with James last week, he said, I'd be surprised if I saw him before the trade deadline. It's before the trade deadline. The Kings, I think,
also before we knew Tyrese Haliburton was going to be traded.
They sent a pretty clear message tonight to De'Aaron Fox, or today, that he is the guy that's staying on this team. He is the guy that's going to build around. And I guess Monty, all the promises that he made for De'Aaron Fox up to this point, signing him to the deal, all this, is finally, proving himself at this point, saying, you're our guy, we want to build around you. And funny things happen. Now Fox is healthy and he wants to play.
Yeah.
Which could help me in my bet tonight, actually.
It could. I'm glad we could potentially get to see him on the court, because other than that, I don't know who we're going to see for Sacramento. Harrison Barnes and Richaun Holmes, I guess. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Dennis, I agree with you. I do think Fox probably gave Monty an ultimatum. I do, honestly.
I think there had to have been something going on in those conversations.
Fox was a little threatened by Haliburton. how could you not be?
Yeah.
We go back to the whole DeMarcus Cousins thing, right? Where your best player plays a position, and then in back-to-back drafts, you draft replacements for that guy.
Yeah.
We've seen it in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers,
it's just too
Brett
bad.
Favre, some of these other guys, right?
Of course, it's just too bad that Fox couldn't have improved his outside shooting. Not even a ton, just reasonably improved, because then him and Tyrese Haliburton could have been really special together in the backcourt. But, that is what it is. And it goes back to what we talked about for so long after those drafts, where both Monty McNair drafts, he takes a point guard, and we're sitting there going, I don't know, is this the right move? They were clearly the best available. Well, Tyrese was clearly the best available player at that position for that draft. Yeah. Davion was definitely up there. I don't know if he was by far the best available player, but it just goes back to that whole strategy of how you build a team, how you go about the draft. And I think this is the end result of what we saw, right? Like,
yep.
In a perfect world, those draft picks would have worked perfectly together. They would have had this three-headed monster at guard.
Fox is scoring 40 tonight.
How it worked.
Fox is going to score 40 tonight.
40 tonight?
Yeah.
He hasn't played in like almost 3 weeks.
He's the only one that's available to score on the team. Like, who else is playing tonight?
You want to take a bet on that? Because I'll bet under 40 for sure.
I'm thinking positive, guys. I'm thinking positive here. And, in all seriousness, this is really going to handicap the Kings tonight because Buddy Hield's not available. That's
yes.
20 shots. Could be 2 points, could be 30 points.
Yes. Expect De'Aaron and Davion to put up probably like 40 shots combined between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think HB is going to get a lot of action tonight as well.
Yeah.
And then they play back-to-back tomorrow as well. If Fox plays tonight, I'm not so sure he's going to play tomorrow, which might actually help my side of the bet here. But
or maybe he doesn't play tonight and plays tomorrow.
That's true. But first game back is always rough. He's probably going to be sore tomorrow if he does play.
Yeah.
But Calvin, I know we hinted at it a little bit here, but do you want to give a little insight on this Uber ride that we had? We had to go to Best Buy today to get a cable.
How many people are going to be surprised to hear what we have to say? It's not like it's breaking news or anything like that. But it was just an interesting situation. Like Barry said, we had to go to Best Buy because we needed a cable to finish setting up all our stuff here at Punch Bowl Social, get connected to the internet. So we're in this Uber. We're talking to the woman who's driving us around, and she's asking us what we're doing here. We're in town visiting. We're doing this podcast after the Kings game. She goes, "Oh, that's cool. I used to work for the Kings. I was a bartender, blah, blah, blah."
She said we were lucky where we were staying.
She did say that we were lucky where we were staying, but we already knew that. And she goes, "Yeah, all the players, they were really nice. They were really cool, except for DeMarcus Cousins. That guy was a dickhead." I think
she
was
said
her exact words.
To put it nicely,
yeah,
he's a dick.
He's a dick. But again, is that breaking news? Like, I didn't shock anybody by saying
She elaborated a little bit more, and, I personally really like DeMarcus Cousins a lot as a player, but I don't know him as a person. She said that he was just so mean to everybody that he was around. Players, coaches, employees, just everybody. He had to always bully people. Yeah. He had to always put people down to raise himself up above. And honestly, I'm not really surprised because that's just kind of what he puts off. But, I think he's definitely got his karma. Not that I root for injuries for anybody, but, the world has a funny way of changing things on people, right? So it is unfortunate to hear stuff like that. I really did like DeMarcus when he was with the Kings. I do think it was the right move to trade him. But it's just interesting, being here in the city. Calvin and I are not here very often, and we're talking Kings with everybody while we're here. Speaking of which, Calvin, I'm going to give it away. We're staying at the Kimpton Sawyer, which is right next to the arena.
It is. We couldn't have been in a better location.
And we were almost pretty busy, occupied last night. You want to chime in here and give some thoughts on what we were potentially going to be doing?
We're staying at the same hotel as the Minnesota Timberwolves players. I've already run in, just today, I've seen Karl Anthony Towns, Patrick Beverley, Torian Prince.
Calvin was in the elevator coughing around him.
I was trying my best to hack up a lung, but Barry and I were thinking some of the players are actually staying on the same floor as us, so we were thinking it might ruin our show because we would sacrifice a night of sleep basically, but we're contemplating doorbell ditching on the Timberwolves players' rooms so that they don't get any sleep either and therefore play much worse against the Kings. But I don't even know how much of an advantage that would give Sacramento. So,
yeah, I mean, we might pull a Jordan. We might call some ladies of the evening and
send a pizza over.
Send an old pizza over that's been sitting out for a while or something.
I hear Karl Anthony Towns really likes pizza. So.
Hey, we're Kings fans. We do what we can to help the team. That's really what we do.
Thanks, Patrick. It's good to be back in Sacramento.
But anyways, we don't want to make this drag on too long. We just want to do a little bit of testing here. We wanted to show off our new space here at Punch Bowl Social, where we will be live tonight, another post-game live. After
we'll be here
Kings,
tomorrow as well. So
yes.
If you can't come down tonight, we'll be here tomorrow as well.
Both games live afterwards. Make sure you guys come check us out here. We just wanted to give our thoughts a little bit on, this Kings trade. We talked about, will they make a move? Will they not make a move? They have finally made a move. And as much as I love Tyrese Haliburton, I do have to say I think it is a good move for the Kings moving forward. Maybe I'm just looking on the bright side, trying to stay positive, but Kings could have 2 All-Stars next season. They could have a top 5 pick in this year's draft. I think there's going to be some more trades happening here in the next couple days, possibly some in the offseason. Kings fans wanted change, and that's exactly what they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously only time is going to tell to see what this trade does for both teams. And we'll be excited to see Fox and Sabonis play together, for the rest of the season, even if it doesn't result in a ton of wins for the Kings. I mean, that's, again, another conversation for another day. It's like, where do we go from here? Are the Kings all in trying to push for the play-in tournament? Are they just going to kind of limp their way to the end of the season and hope for a good draft pick? But as we sit here today, the Kings roster is better now than it was yesterday.
Yep, I
and
agree.
I think as Kings fans, that's all we can really ask for, even though obviously a lot of us are going to be very distraught with not getting to see Tyrese Haliburton continue to play in Sacramento.
Yep, agreed 100%. Well, hey, guys, we want to hear from you. So let us know down below in the comments what your thoughts are on this deal. Be as elaborate as you want. If you would have preferred another player, let us know. If you're happy about this deal, let us know. Just let us know your overall comments down below, and we'll read them. We'll talk about them a little bit later tonight after the game. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another Royal Rebounds podcast. Like I said, catch us live tonight, guys. We're only going to be in Sacramento for 2 days. So either catch us on the podcast or come stand behind us. Wave to all your family members, your friends. Have a good time. Make sure you guys smash up the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys tonight after the game. In the meantime, go Kings.